My jade pendant was thrown away by Rita earlier this morning, so it should still be intact. Samson drove me to the garbage dump, speeding all the way. He accompanied me to search through the garbage pile. Even though he was a clean freak, he didn't mind getting dirty and smelly, his hands covered in mud. Ding! Wisnovel reminds you to click the subscribe button in the bottom right corner to read the complete novel. From dusk till dawn, I found nothing. When the sun rose, I suddenly felt incredibly helpless. The golden light on the horizon stunned my eyes. I bit my lip, holding back my tears, mustering all my strength not to cry. The elderly couple at the garbage dump pitied me and came to help me search. Finally, when I was about to give up, the old lady called out to me. "Come and take a look." "Is this it?" I stood up abruptly, feeling dizzy. I didn't care about anything else. I pulled my shoes out of the garbage and ran over. The old lady held a sandalwood box in her hand, and inside were scattered pieces of jade. It was my jade pendant, but it was truly broken. Actually, I should be happy. I found it, that's all that matters. I tried to force a smile, but as soon as my lips moved, tears fell heavily. "Mom, you said as long as the jade pendant is here, you'll be here, right? But now, the jade pendant is broken, will you still be here? Can you not leave me? Please don't abandon me." Samson reached out and pulled me into his arms, comforting me. "Don't be sad, let me find someone to fix it." I pushed him away, shook my head. "It's fine, there's no need." After a moment, his voice turned cold. He almost gritted his teeth as he cursed at me. "Alicia, every time you say it's fine, I fucking want to strangle you. If you rely on me once, can you die?" I looked at him silently. His phone suddenly rang. It was a call from Rita. He hesitated for 2 seconds, then answered it. Rita was crying on the other end. "Samson, I wanted to come and apologize to you and Alicia, but I got lost. There's a man following me, I'm so scared." Samson no longer paid attention to me, he walked away. Coincidentally, the hospital also sent me a text message. Today was the day I scheduled for an abortion. On Rita's birthday. I lost my mother and the unborn child I had never met. Before entering the operating room, the anesthesia started to take effect. I fell into a dream of memories. That year, at the age of 16, I worked hard and got into the top high school in the country. I entered the same school as Rita, Samson, and the boy I loved. From then on, my nightmare began. I didn't understand why Rita enjoyed bullying me so much. She and her friends would stick chewed gum in my hair and throw used sanitary pads into my school bag. They would trip me when I passed by. And when I went to the bathroom, they would pour dirty water on my head. I did resist, and the teachers knew about it, but they did nothing. Later, when I had stomach pain during my period, just as I found painkillers to take, Rita snatched them away. She smiled and told me to kneel down and beg her. I gritted my teeth and endured the pain that tortured me again and again. I was afraid that I couldn't hold on and would surrender to Rita. My classmates around me were betting on how long I could endure. Suddenly, someone leaned against my desk, casting a shadow over me. He beckoned to Rita and smiled, but his smile was cold. "The medicine. Give it to me. I've adopted this little sick duckling. From now on, she belongs to me. Whoever touches her, I'll deal with them. Do you all understand?" He was Marcus Stabler, Samson's jerk brother, always causing trouble and not studying well. I used to dislike him. But today, he helped me. I guess it's probably because he was covered in injuries from fighting with others. The elders in his family didn't care about the reasons, they only punished and insulted him. Only my mom secretly cared for him, applying medicine to his wounds. It seemed like he was repaying the favor. Since that day, this little sick duckling of mine also had a loyal caretaker. When I woke up from the anesthesia, Mrs. Bennett was holding my hand. She had shed a lot of tears, so I asked her why she was crying. She said I had been talking in my dream for a long time. She asked me, "Where did the boy you love go?" I looked at the tall building across from me and closed my eyes. Whispering softly, "Well, he flew away with the wind." I turned off my phone and disappeared from the world for half a month. According to Mrs. Bennet, Samson was going crazy looking for me. The first thing I did after being discharged from the hospital was to bring the divorce agreement to meet him. He remained silent for a moment and then laughed coldly. He glanced briefly at the agreement and tossed it onto the coffee table. Then, he looked up and stared at my belly. "Before we get divorced, is there anything else we need to discuss?" I smiled calmly and replied, "There was something before, but now there isn't. I had an abortion." "Don't worry, you have nothing to worry about." His pupils trembled, and he was stunned for 2 seconds. He lowered his head and suddenly laughed. "Alicia Golden, you disappeared for half a month just to do this? I was afraid you would be sad, so I traveled all over the country to find an expert to repair the jade for you. And this is how you treat me?" He reached out and pulled me down onto the sofa, trapping me under him, and asked fiercely, "Why are you treating me like this? How dare you? How can you bear to?" Perhaps in the past, I was too obedient. Everyone thought that I was deeply in love with him, including himself. I looked up at his face and gently touched his eyebrows and eyes. I calmly told him, "Samson, the person I love has never been you. You look really ugly when you throw a tantrum. You are becoming less and less like him." At first, finding a substitute brought me some comfort. But as time went on, I realized that his smile was not his. Even his embrace was not as warm as his. I got tired of it. Samson knew who I was referring to. Tears suddenly fell from his eyes and landed on my cheek. Living for a long time, you can witness all kinds of strange things. The lofty Samson didn't shed a tear even on the day Rita left. But today, he cried for me. It's really interesting and disgusting at the same time. I told him, no need to feel wronged. The beginning of our relationship was originally a transaction, wasn't it? You used me as a tool for revenge, and I used you as a substitute for entertainment. We don't owe each other anything. Before I could finish my words, he interrupted me. His eyes suddenly turned red, and in that moment, he looked like a lost puppy. "Alicia, you have no right to say we don't owe each other anything. Do you know that I wasn't happy at all when I gave Rita the ring? I tried hard to love her like before, but my mind was filled with thoughts of you. When you disappeared, I would wake up in the middle of the night in a panic. You made me fall in love with you, and then you say we don't owe each other anything? Fuck that." As he spoke, he reached out and pinched my face, like a ferocious wolf, threatening me through gritted teeth. "You think you can divorce me? Dream it." Rita, who had been eavesdropping in the room, pushed the door open and walked out in a daze. She choked up and asked softly, "Samson, what are you talking about?" When Samson was about to get up, I reached out and grabbed his tie, pulling him closer to me. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw Rita clenching her fists, and I smiled. I asked Samson, "Back when we were in school, even though we weren't in the same class, you should know how Rita bullied me, right? We don't have to get divorced, but I want you to take back all the money you owe her. Now, let her get out of here." Rita became anxious and cried while saying, "Samson, everyone has a period when they're young and foolish. Right? Besides, you know that I was just joking with Alicia. If she's angry, I'll apologize to her, okay?" She knelt down and pleaded, "Alicia, I only have Samson, please don't take him away from me, okay? Samson, those people who are after the debt, they're really scary. If you really don't want me anymore, if you want to take back that money, I might be." Samson frowned, staring into my eyes. After hesitating for a long time, he finally said, "I'm sorry." He always does this. He says he loves me, but when it comes to making a choice, he always leans towards Rita. I scolded him with a smile. "Then why were you acting so affectionate in front of me just now? You don't have to apologize. I was just teasing you. Samson Stabler, who you love is none of my business." His eyes flickered with pain for a moment, then gradually turned cold as he pushed me away. He approached Rita, slowly embracing her in his arms, and comforted her softly. "It's all right, don't be afraid. It's my fault for speaking out of turn. I don't want anyone else, and I won't let you go. I promise." Rita pounded on his shoulders, crying with grievance, but she held onto his neck tightly, afraid to let go. Seeing how frightened she looked, my heart felt a sense of satisfaction. On the day when Samson and I divorced, Rita followed suit. She held Samson's hand tightly, afraid that I would give him some love potion and steal him away. When we received the divorce certificate, she visibly relaxed. While Samson went to get the car, she came to provoke me again. Taking advantage of our quarrel, you enjoyed being Mrs. Stabler for 3 years. Consider it my reward to you. Alicia, remember this, you will always be a poor woman born to a poor family. In the future, be careful, I'll make sure to play you to death. I reached out and grabbed her hair, causing her to scream in pain. I smiled and whispered to her, Rita, I have evidence of your murder in my hands. Her face instantly became panicked. I stared at her with satisfaction and continued, but don't worry, I'm not as ruthless as you. I don't want you dead, I just want you to suffer, to live worse than death. After we officially announced our divorce, Samson's label of infidelity during marriage couldn't be shaken off completely. He didn't care. He was a popular star and also an award-winning actor. Such scandals didn't really affect him. There would always be people who would choose to forgive him. He started appearing with Rita in various public occasions, issuing statements to clear her name and paving the way for her acting career. When we met again, Rita had already finished filming a major production and made a high-profile comeback. Tonight is our senior's birthday, so I couldn't not come. As soon as I arrived at the entrance of the banquet hall, I saw Rita holding Samson's arm, greeting me. Alicia, long time no see. She took out an invitation from her bag. Alicia, I forgot to tell you. In October, Samson and I are getting married. I hope you can come. Samson's eyebrows furrowed slightly as he glanced at her. No one expected that I would accept it. You guys did a good job keeping it a secret. I didn't hear anything about it. Not like when I got married. Your husband insisted on live streaming the whole thing, wanting the whole world to know. It's annoying to have so much attention. Seeing her expression change, I walked away, turning around to throw the invitation into the trash can. Samson Stabler, Rita Minter. I hope you have an unforgettable wedding. I heard that because of the wedding, Rita had a long argument with Samson before changing the secret wedding to a live broadcast. She's really foolish. What's good about a public show of a wedding? What Samson truly wanted to give her was protection, but she didn't understand. I counted the days, waiting for the day of their wedding. After the reunion party that day, I received an anonymous video. I didn't know which old classmate it was, but he told me. Marcus's death was not a suicide. I'm sorry, I didn't dare tell you before because I was afraid of retaliation from Rita. Marcus. It's been a long time since I heard someone mention his name. That night, I watched that video repeatedly and finally knew why he died on the day I planned to confess to him. It was because of me. On the day of Samson and Rita's wedding, I waited anxiously in front of the live stream, afraid of missing the happy expressions on their faces. Rita, wearing a designer wedding gown, walked gracefully down the aisle covered in white roses. Samson was waiting for her at the end, so gentle. They exchanged vows under the witness of the priest, promising to be loyal to each other forever, in sickness and in health, till death do them part. And then the chaos began. A video suddenly appeared on the internet, filmed on the rooftop of a school. In the video, 2 people were clearly visible. Rita and another guy who was Marcus. It was snowing that day, and Rita stood on the edge of the rooftop, swaying. She cried and asked the guy, "Would you rather see me die than be with me?" He seemed impatient. How many times do I have to say it? I already have someone I like. Are you deaf? She didn't believe it and continued to pester him. Who do you like? Is it that bitch Alicia? What makes her so special? I've liked you for 2 years. I like you so much that I would die for you. Can she do that? Perhaps unable to bear seeing the person he liked being insulted, the guy coldly laughed. Rita, I know exactly what you are. All your tricks may fool Samson, but they won't work on me. I'll say this once, hand over Alicia's photos. If you dare to mess with her again, I'll kill you. Rita stared at him, speechless for a while. Much later, she suddenly laughed and jumped off the rooftop, shrugging her shoulders. You really have no taste. Do you know how many people like me? You're just the most despised child in the Stabler family. Who do you think you are to be so arrogant with me? You want Alicia's nude photos, right? Fine, come and get them yourself. If you can't get hold of them, don't blame me if I release them for the whole world to see what kind of person that bitch really is. She took out a memory card from her pocket and held it up high. In the moment that guy rushed towards her, she suddenly crouched down. That day, the rooftop was slippery and the wind was strong. He turned into a butterfly, briefly lingering before flying away with the wind. I still remember that the sky was dark that day. He ruffled my hair and asked me to wait for him after school so we could go home together. I touched the love letter I had written in my desk, blushing and nodding. But he never came back after he left. That love letter is still kept in my backpack. In the live stream, someone interrupted the ceremony and showed a video to Samson. Rita's face changed, and she grabbed Samson's collar, crying out, "Don't look it, Samson, it's not real. I didn't mean for it to happen. It's not my fault he fell and died. I never thought the rooftop would be so slippery. How could I have known he was so useless that he couldn't even stand steady?" Samson pushed her down to the ground. Her diamond headband fell off, and her hair and makeup became a mess. It felt so satisfying to see her in such a sorry state. This scandal caused a huge uproar, and people online started listing all the bad things Rita had done from childhood to adulthood. Some were true, some were false. Rita had a negative impact on society and was brought to court, where she received a heavy sentence that no one could save her from. Samson was also implicated and blacklisted in the industry, being disowned by the Stabler family. The funniest thing was that his parents used to hate Marcus the most, even when he died, were still cursing him. Suddenly, they appeared on camera, showing off how filial Marcus was. They shed tears as if they were genuine. But they didn't even know what kind of flowers Marcus liked. There were large chrysanthemums placed in front of his gravestone. I had to make several trips to get rid of them. He hated chrysanthemums the most. He was very picky and always said they smelled bad. I cleaned his little home and sat beside him, basking in the sun. I really want to talk to him. What should I say? Let me think. I'll tell him something he hasn't heard before. I'll tell him that I love him.